Next up, to recline or not to recline? That is the question coming out of a recent in-flight dispute that went viral when one of the passengers posted about it on Twitter. A flyer named Wendy Williams, not that one, wrote that the man sitting behind her on an American Airlines flight was, quote, angry that I reclined my seat and punched it about 9 times. Hard, also referring to the ordeal as an assault. She said she did raise her seat so the man could eat, but after the meals were cleared, she pushed it right back. We can't actually play the video, by the way, which is still on Twitter, because Williams quickly monetized the legal rights to it. But in a screenshot, you can see her reclining into the space of the man seated behind her, who can't recline his seat, which is up against the bathroom wall. You can also see the man's hand hitting her seat, which he did several times. Now, Williams said flight attendants sided with the puncher. And since the post went up, there's been a lot of hate for both passengers online. But the whole exchange has raised an important question for the rest of us. In the age of ever-shrinking airplane seats, when is it okay to recline? Joined now by a man who's logged his fair share of hours in airplane seats, rumored to be a reclining scofflaw, Boston Globe travel writer, Christopher Muther. Christopher, it's great to see you.
Good to see you as well, Jim.
What are the rules, by the way? When you're allowed to essentially do the whole thing, are you not?
It really depends on the perspective of the person. I feel like it falls into 2 camps, obviously, recliners and non-recliners. And there's not a lot of overlap between the two. Some recliners, though, are more apologetic than others. Others are sort of, they take the tact of, I paid for this space, I'm using the entire space. Some recliners look behind them. They see if it's a child, they're okay with it. If it's a guy with long legs, they won't, like that sort of thing.
But I was under the impression, apparently wrongly, that there are rules in place. I understand there are people who do different practices.
Yes,
but isn't
indeed.
there a rule that you can recline your seat all the way back if you want to? Am I wrong about that?
You are.
Oh, I am really? What are the rules?
Rules, this is the thing, rules vary from person to person. There's no rule, and if there was, on an airplane, nobody's going to follow it.
So is there a rule against the knee defender, which is one of the great inventions in the history of humankind?
Only the knee defender was outlawed.
No, what's the matter with that? By the way, for those who don't know, knee defender is the thing that allows you slip this thing in the back of the seat, whatever it is, and they can't recline their seat, which is excellent. What's wrong with that?
It was outlawed.
It was?
Yeah, after the famous the knee defender incident, which is a woman figured out she was being blocked from reclining. She threw her water in the guy's face. One thing led to another. But this is sort of what leads me to the piece that I wrote yesterday, which is running Sunday.
Pretty radical position. What does it say?
It's a very radical position, which is get rid of the variable, no recline, or pre-reclined seats.
Meaning fixed in place.
Fixed
so there's no
place.
decision.
So there's
and didn't
no
you say one of those horrible, I shouldn't say this, Spirit Airlines, which treats people like crap otherwise.
Yes.
They have no recline kind of thing, right?
Yes, and I can't believe that I'm sort of siding with the idea that Spirit has this, but I feel like it's the only way in this day and age that people will be able to get through this, because really there are 2 camps and people get quite angry
Now,
about
I know
it.
you want me to tell you the story about the time the flight attendant said, if one more time I reach into the front seat in front of me with a 4'6" little kid and kept pressing the button so his seat went up, the air marshals were going to take me off the plane, but I'm not going to get into that. I am totally with your approach, by the way. I think it's great.
Yeah.
We move on to something else you write about. I've wanted to ask you since, I don't know when I met you, a couple of years ago.
Oh, like
whatever
decades,
it was.
yeah.
I've wanted to ask you whether you were for or against Fliegscham since I met you. Are you for Fliegscham or against it?
I'm completely for it.
You are. Could you describe what it is, please?
I have no idea.
Yes, you wrote about it, actually.
Cookie.
Fliegscham is a Swedish word. Well, how are you supposed to say it? What is it?
It's
Fliegscham.
Did you practice
I looked at a Swedish
online?
pronouncer. Obviously, you should have looked at it, too. What it is a Swedish word for what?
Flight shame.
And exactly what is that?
So that's the idea that your carbon footprint is a little too large if you're on flights often. And the idea is it's sort of based in Sweden, obviously.
The Greta factor.
Yeah, the Greta factor, which is you should be looking for other means of transportation rather than flight.
Is that catching on big time, by the way? I mean, I saw
in Europe, and it is in particular Sweden, Germany. In this country, it's more of like, I don't want to say a handful, but it's not quite the same movement as it is.
You mentioned a great site that I went on today called Shameplane. Do you remember what it is?
Of course,
What is it?
I mean, I love shame plane. I love passenger shame. So shame plane is essentially the one that tells you how much of the Arctic you're melting every time you take a flight.
You just type in your beginning spot and your destination.
Yes.
And they tell you how many square meters of the Arctic you're melting.
So if you want to feel really bad about yourself, think about like how many polar bears are drifting out to sea because you needed to go to see your aunt in Los Angeles.
If you take a long trip, they have a dead polar bear on its back. Actually,
X's on its eyes.
Should.
Yes.
In any case, apparently, in retrospect, I totally humiliated myself when you were here 3 years ago. You've been here a lot in between. He comes on the show. He's got a patch on his eye, and here's this pathetic conversation that I am sort of responsible for. Here it is. Detached retina, is that what's going on?
No, actually, I'm a pirate now. Add that to travel writer.
That's horrible. I'm laughing like a fool, but maybe it's your. You write this incredibly honest, sort of painful but beautiful piece about your camera being your third eye because you've had huge eye problems for 4 years, and you are a travel writer. What's the deal?
You know, it's one of those things where it started with my vision like rapidly decreasing, and I found out it took a while that I had cataracts, which is, you know, not completely unusual, but it is for someone in their 40s. So I had cataract surgery, then the retina detached, then the other retina detached twice. This new lens got hazy. This cataract needed to be replaced. It was sort of one thing after another, and anyone who's ever had a detached retina knows there's a long recovery process. So I had to cancel many, many trips because you can't get on an airplane with a gas bubble in your eye. Otherwise, your eye is going to kind of pop right out. Although I thought mine might at some point anyway. But so what my piece was about was essentially how my camera got me through all those travels. You know, there were times where I couldn't really see. I would actually use it sometimes in airports, take pictures of signs, and then look down to figure out where I should be going.
Why'd you never tell us, by the way, us, your readers? Only a couple of seconds. Why?
Well, I didn't want people to know that I was actually human.
Why'd you tell us now?
It took me a while. Well, one, I wanted to make sure that I was kind of through the worst of it. And knock on wood, I am.
Great.
The other thing was I never quite really felt like there was a reason why I needed to say it. But then when I thought about the camera and how photography has kind of transformed, and for me, it's really helped not only with getting around, but also just the way I see the world.
Let me tell you, one, it was a beautiful piece, and two,
Thank you.
You're my favorite pirate. You really are.
Thank you so much.
Great Christopher Muther. Thanks.